This is a sustainable, high-performing, easy-to-install fiber bat insulation product. It's a mouthful. And this is the guy who's working on making it an industry standard in the world of construction.
So I'm Matty Mead. I'm the founder and CEO of Hempitecture.
It's Hempel, and it's what the name sort of sounds like. An insulator made out of 92% industrial hemp. And it's one of two Hempitecture products Matty is using to evolve construction standards. So what is it that Hempitecture actually does?
We're a public benefit corporation that specializes in what we believe are the most truly sustainable materials on the planet, building materials, that is. Our primary product is an insulation material called hemp wool. Hemp wool is a 90% hemp fiber bat, meaning it's all natural and non-toxic, which ultimately lends to healthier homes and more energy saved in your home because our material is high performing and also carbon neutral.
Where did the inspiration for Hempitecture come from?
The story of Hempitecture is ever evolving and really began when I was an undergraduate student studying architecture and environmental sciences, and I just became interested in this problem that I learned about the built environment. And that problem is that the built environment is responsible for 40% or so of our carbon footprint and 40% of our energy consumption. And so to address that problem, I, as a student, was able to research different building materials and methodologies used across the world and became really interested in the idea of natural building materials, materials that are made with earthen materials that can store carbon dioxide and are rapidly renewable. So Hempitecture began with that interest, but of course, over the years has morphed and grown and turned into our business today that now is focused on scaling this hemp-based insulation product in the United States.
What is it like to work within the hemp industry?
So in terms of the hemp industry, I think one thing that's important to consider is it takes a long time to build a supply chain and innovate and create new building materials from materials that are not frequently or commonly used here in the United States yet. We've had to be patient. We have imported our materials from overseas and built houses with materials that could have come locally, but just because of where we're at right now in the industry and the scale of the industry, that's just not possible. And so we've had to be patient and really be invested in this space for the long run.
Up until this year, Idaho, where Hempitecture is headquartered, was the only state that hadn't legalized hemp. Now, the company is planning on opening a manufacturing plant in May of 2022 so they can actually produce their own products.
We're at a spot now where this industry is developing and this is going to become more widely accessible and available.
How did you know you were on the right track in the early stages of developing?
Early on, when we didn't have a lot of revenue and we were still building just our presence and who we are and what we did, it might sound silly to say, but social media was a good barometer of just the interest that people had out there for what we were doing. And I remember, kind of making an Instagram account for my business early on while we were very much in the research and development phase and kind of connecting with people through that because at that point it was very niche. This is, 2012, 2013, when very few people were really thinking about hempcrete and hemp-based building materials. And so, it's been a great tool for us to grow, connect with other people.
How did you get financing for Hempitecture?
At Hempitecture, we're 100% bootstrapped, which means we have not taken on any funding until this date. We are actually in the midst of our first fundraising round called our seed round. But I'd say go as long and as far as you can with, your money, your family's money, if they're kind enough to lend it to you, and make a lot with a little if you can, because it'll pay off in the long run.
The Idaho Global Entrepreneurial Mission granted Hempitecture $200,000 to conduct further research on hemp building materials within the University of Idaho. This will allow the company even more innovation and expansion within the industry. What advice would you give your past self before becoming an entrepreneur?
I think I would wish I could give a younger me more patience and understand that good things take time and a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of people. I think that'd be another thing that I wish had been emphasized is how valuable human resources are and people around you. It's what can make or break your business. I think a lot of times the entrepreneur is self-focused, and at some point when you're growing a business, it becomes much less of that and has to go outward, or otherwise it's not going to succeed.
What's a helpful tip you can offer aspiring entrepreneurs?
The number one piece of advice that I would give to entrepreneurs is don't be afraid to pivot. I think we get so focused on one specific idea that we need to, be open to adjusting your sales. When the wind changes direction and you don't change your sales and you wonder why you're not going anywhere, that's not being responsive to what's around you. So don't be afraid to pivot, because it can really result in positive change if you actually honor that and go with it.